The early morning fog hung low over the quiet town as Officer Daniels sipped his lukewarm coffee, preparing for another routine shift. The streets were still, the kind of stillness that feels too heavy, like something was about to happen. That's when he saw the shape staggering out from behind a parked truck. A dog, not just any dog, a German shepherd, bloodied, limping, eyes full of pain but unwavering in purpose. Clenched in its jaw was a worn-out backpack, dragging across the ground with every shaky step. The officer froze for a moment, unable to believe what he was seeing. The dog's leg was injured, leaving a faint trail of blood behind. Yet it didn't stop. It kept moving, inch by inch, until it reached the front of the police station. There, with a final push of strength, the dog dropped the backpack and collapsed at the steps. Daniels rushed forward, kneeling beside the trembling animal, his voice soft but urgent. Other officers poured out of the station, stunned at the sight. One recognized the tag on the dog's collar, Max. He had served with the department for years before retiring. A local hero, a loyal partner. But what was he doing here, in this condition, dragging a backpack like it was the most important thing in the world? As they lifted the dog gently and rushed to call animal emergency, no one said a word. They didn't need to. Whatever was in that backpack had brought Max back from retirement, through pain and exhaustion, back to the station he once called home. And everyone could feel it. This wasn't just about a dog. This was about something bigger, something human, something that would change them all. Officer Daniels stood by the vet's table, watching as Max lay unconscious, hooked to IVs and breathing softly. The backpack, now resting beside him, looked ordinary weathered canvas, torn straps, but inside, it held a story no one expected. Carefully, the officers unzipped it, half expecting to find supplies or food. Instead, what they pulled out silenced the room. A small faded baby blanket, folded neatly, a photo, creased and damp, showing a young woman smiling with a toddler in her arms, a baby bottle, half full, and finally, a blinking GPS tracker still clinging to its last moments of battery life. Daniels stared at the items, his mind racing. This wasn't just a bag, this was a message, a desperate one. The pieces fit together like a puzzle, and every officer in that room felt the weight of it. The woman in the photo looked familiar. Local Daniels grabbed a map and matched the GPS, pinged to a wooded area on the outskirts of town, deep forest, mostly untouched. Something about it made his gut tighten. Max had come from there, injured, bleeding, yet determined. Within minutes, a search team was assembled. Officers and firefighters, geared up and set out, led by the last coordinates and a hope that somehow, they weren't too late. The silence during the ride out was deafening. They all knew whatever Max had tried to say with that backpack, it mattered. It mattered enough for him to crawl through pain, risk his life, and return to the only place he trusted. The place he knew would listen. As the forest loomed ahead, one thing became clear. They weren't just looking for answers, they were chasing a second chance. The search team moved fast, weaving through fallen branches and muddy trails as the forest grew darker and denser. The GPS signal had gone cold, but they followed broken twigs, paw prints, and faint spots of blood, evidence of Max's painful journey. Every second felt heavier than the last. Then, just as doubt began to creep in, one of the firefighters shouted. A collapsed cabin lay barely visible beneath a large tree that had fallen during the recent storm. Its roof was crushed in, one wall caved completely. Debris was scattered, and the scene looked hopeless at first glance. But then, from inside the wreckage, a soft cry. They rushed forward, carefully lifting beams and broken wood. In the corner of what once was a bedroom, they found her, a young woman curled around an infant, both pale and motionless. The baby stirred slightly, letting out a weak whimper. The woman opened her eyes, barely. Her lips moved, but the sound was barely a whisper. Still, they all heard it. Max ... he saved us. The EMTs moved quickly, stabilizing the baby and lifting the woman onto a stretcher. She had broken ribs, dehydration, and signs of hypothermia, but she was alive. So was the baby. Against all odds, she had survived 2 days trapped under rubble, clutching her child, holding on with the desperate hope that someone would come. And someone did. Not a man or machine, but a loyal canine dog who had once served this town and clearly never stopped. Max had escaped the cabin, taken the backpack with whatever clues he could carry, and limped all the way back for help. His journey wasn't random, it was deliberate, determined. He knew exactly where to go, and he made it just in time. News of Max's heroic act spread quickly. By the time the woman and her baby were safely in the hospital, Every local station was covering the story of the wounded K9 who had saved 2 lives. Reporters called him a miracle. The doctors called it a near impossibility. The vet who treated Max shook his head in disbelief, saying, with the blood loss and exhaustion, he shouldn't have made it more than a mile. But he walked nearly 7 at the clinic. Max slowly regained strength. He lay with his head on a soft blanket, tail wagging faintly whenever someone came to visit. Officers from all over the county came to see him. Some brought treats, others just knelt beside him and whispered thanks. Officer Daniels sat with him every evening, remembering their years together on patrol. Max had always been brave and fiercely loyal, but this act had gone beyond training. It was love. It was instinct. It was a bond that never faded. The mother, recovering in her hospital room, asked to meet the dog who saved her life. When they wheeled her to the clinic, Max looked up and let out a soft bark, his eyes lighting up. She reached out, tears in her eyes, whispering his name. The baby, now alert and safe, cooed at the sight of him. In that moment, it didn't matter that he was old, scarred, or limping. He was a hero, a protector, a friend. The room fell quiet as the mother gently hugged Max, her tears falling into his fur. It was a moment no one could forget. A dog who never gave up. A mother who held on, and a life saved because love doesn't ask how, it just acts. Weeks passed, and Max's story touched hearts far beyond the town. Letters poured in from across the country. Children drew pictures of him. Local news called him a legend. The town mayor organized a small ceremony in the park, not for a dog but for a hero. People gathered with candles, flags, and tissues in their hands. Max, now walking slowly but proudly beside Officer Daniels, wore a medal on his collar and a bandage still wrapped around his leg. He didn't understand the applause or the cameras, but he felt the love. He felt home. The woman and her baby sat in the front row, both smiling. She had named her son's middle name Max in honor of the dog who gave them a second chance. She spoke briefly, her voice trembling, saying, "We're only here today because of him. He didn't just find help, he fought to bring it." That kind of heart, you don't see that every day. When the crowd stood to clap, Max gave a small bark as if answering back. The town would never forget what he did. A plaque was placed near the police station steps, right where Max had collapsed with the backpack that saved 2 lives. It read, "For Max, who never stopped serving." As the sun set, Officer Daniels looked at his old partner and smiled. Max had once been trained to protect, but what he did came from something deeper: loyalty that couldn't be taught, and love that wouldn't quit. In a world full of noise and distraction, Max reminded them all of what truly matters: courage, compassion, and the quiet power of never giving up. And in that moment, surrounded by grateful hearts, the town felt just a little more human thanks to one unforgettable dog. Max's journey wasn't just a rescue mission, it was a reminder that loyalty has no limits, that courage isn't measured by size or strength, and that sometimes the quietest heroes leave the loudest echoes in our hearts. In a world so often filled with noise and rush, one wounded dog taught an entire town what it means to hold on, to fight through pain, and to never give up on the ones you love. He didn't wear a cape. He didn't ask for thanks, but in his eyes lived something rare: devotion without condition. Max didn't just save a life, he restored faith, in kindness, in bravery, in the bond that connects us all. And long after the news fades, long after the ceremony ends, the memory of Max will live on, not just in stories or plaques, but in the hearts of everyone who believes that love, in its purest form, can walk through fire and still come home.